continuation of the F56 Mini Cooper, it is finally time for me to do a buyer's guide on the F56 JCW. But a buyer's guide on this particular generation of the Mini would not be complete without one particular vehicle, and here it comes now. You see, this is the generation of Mini that gave us the GP3, and naturally, it seems only fitting that I include one in this video. So a little background about the F56 generation of the JCW. It was launched in the 2015 model year in the US market, and it was available originally with a B48 4-liter turbocharged motor, putting out 228 horsepower and 236 foot-pounds of torque. Now, those numbers are slightly different in the UK market and the European markets. They're about 231 horsepower, but in the case of this video, and because I'm based in the United States, we are doing US spec. So, for those reasons, 228 horsepower was the top horsepower for the vehicle, and 236 foot-pounds of torque was the top torque for the vehicle. Now, this vehicle we will get to a little bit later, as the numbers for that vehicle are obviously very different. There's a bit of a problem with filming in the West Bottoms in Kansas City. Namely, construction, trains, planes when they fly over, and other automobiles. And if you got that reference, good for you, because it's exactly what I was going for. Where is it? Is it a ghost train or something?
Now they're going right back down. Oh, I wonder if that's why. Because that one on the other side's resting on a fence. Now I wonder if that's messing with
There it is. The crazy things that happen when you're filming in the West Bottoms. You get trains, you get planes, and you get other cars occasionally, or motorcycles. Anyway, where were we? So in this video, I have my 2022 JCW, and I have my friend's 2021 GP3. Now we call it the GP3 because it is the third generation of the GP. So in this buyer's guide, we're going to be going over what to look for when buying one of these. And mainly, if you've already watched the F56 buyer's guide, you already know what to look for when buying an F56. But this is more of what to look for when you're buying a JCW, because there's different configurations, there's different specs, different options, things that were done differently throughout the generations of the car. So there's things to look for when you're shopping for one of these. So using the GP3 as an example, this is the front bumper that was on the JCW from 2015 till 2021 model years. And you'll notice you have the vents right here. You have a dummy vent over here typically, although on the GP3 there is a functional vent. You come around to the side, you have unique side skirts bespoke to the JCW, and of course you have a unique bumper bespoke to the JCW. In this case, this one doesn't have that, but there is a different rear bumper compared to the Cooper S. Now those have vents in them. Now for the JCW, the regular JCW, with that body kit on it, you can get things like Pro splitters, Pro diffuser, and other little things to make the car even cooler. Now those options were actually accessories you could buy from Mini and retrofit them onto the car. So at the time you could add things to the vehicles. Otherwise it had a fairly standard JCW look. It also came with track spoke wheels. Now none of our vehicles here have track spokes, but the track spokes were typically bespoke to that vehicle as well. The JCW requiring a convexed spoke pattern, given the fact that the vehicle had massive Brembo brakes up front, and you can't fit a standard wheel around that without a spacer. So they had to find a way to accommodate that. It created a rather quirky look for the car, which is why a lot of people will go aftermarket and do things like OZ wheels, which have a flat face and give you a little bit more clearance while giving you a better look than the stock wheel. Additionally, you will also notice that on the JCWs, no matter which one you're looking at, they will all come with LED headlights. You will not find a halogen headlight on the vehicles at all. They all have LED headlights. Some other unique design elements will be a lip on the wheel arch on the front and rear. Now later on in the generations of the Mini, they did add the JCW wheel arches to the Cooper S and Cooper because it had a cooler look. Now when the second LCI came out, they brought back the lip on the wheel arches, but a much shallower one. So 2015 to 2021 will have a much wider lip on the wheel arch than 2022 to 2024. Now on pre-LCI 2 cars, you had a side scuttle with a John Cooper Works center plate on it. LCI 2 cars will have a slightly different look. That being a plate here, a single LED light here, and then red along the top, or in my case, I have this wrapped in white. Another thing to consider if you're looking at a stock JCW is up until about the 2019 model year, they all sat slightly different. The pre-2019 models actually sat slightly higher. In 2019, they actually adjust the suspension geometry a little bit, bringing the front end down a little. Now, if you wanted to obviously bring the car down even further, you could do what I have on my car, which is the JCW Pro suspension, which was in fact a factory accessory. You could literally go to the dealership, buy this accessory for your car, have the dealership install it, and you have a 1 year or so parts warranty on coilovers. Now, take into consideration, if you want true coilovers, these are not a genuine coilover in that sense. You can adjust the ride height of the vehicle, but you can't really adjust the dampening of the vehicle to any extent. Other brands of coilovers, specifically KW, do have those abilities. And in fact, if you want to know, the coilovers that are used on the JCW Pro coilovers, are in fact made by KW. So they were engineered specifically for this car. Now, coming to the interior of a JCW, you will typically find the JCW bucket seats, whether they are the double stripe cloth, or in the case of the GP3 over here, the Dynamica with Alcantara, and in this case with gray, although they do also come in red on the pre-2021 model year Minis. Some of the seats also came with lumbar adjustment, as this one currently has. Mine do not have that. Some things to consider with the engines. 2015 to 2019 came with the B48 4-liter turbocharged motor with 228 horsepower. 2020 onward to 2024, B46 with the same horsepower, same torque. There was really no difference, except it went from a ultra low emissions vehicle to a super ultra low emissions vehicle. So the engines changed. Now, during this time frame as well, 2020 was the model year without a manual transmission, and I think part of that had to do with the emissions thing. So that's why 2020 model year, if you're looking at those cars, you will not find a single 2020 model year in the United States with a manual transmission. They were all automatic, just for that model year. Now, if you happen to find yourself looking at a GP3, you will find the B48 motor. This engine, though, has 301 horsepower, 331 torque, 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds, which is really good. You're also going to find they vary in terms of price, with some examples fetching original MSRP based on mileage, although I have seen instances where higher mileage ones still fetch a pretty high price. I think it has something to do with the rarity of the vehicle. There were only 3,000 built globally, and I don't know how many of them actually came to the US, but it was a low number as well, much like my car, which we will get to shortly. Additionally, you will also find a different intake in this vehicle. You will find a different grille, different ways of things being set up. This car comes with a stress bar as well, and I even bend it around the intake pipe, which is interesting, along with a few other little tweaks here and there. So let's get into specifics with these cars. If you are looking for low mileage, you typically are going to go for 2022 model year, as those tend to have the lowest mileage. Mine, on the other hand, is not the best example. I just rolled over 76,000 miles. But it looks darn good for 76,000, doesn't it? This one, on the other hand, has 5,600 miles. It's a 2021, and it's a GP3. And with that, you're going to get a lot of cool stuff. Naturally, these carbon fiber side spats definitely stand out like crazy, along with these amazing wheels, which are 18 by 8s, I believe. And you're going to even get unique numbering based on the vehicle you have. Now, I am touching the car. I have permission to do that because the owner of the vehicle is standing behind me. So no comments from the peanut gallery about that. Some things you got to look out for with any of these cars, particularly the GP3, is the way the spats are designed. You're going to have to worry about gravel getting caught between the spats and the body. In this case, he must have been driving on a gravel road recently because there's a lot down here. And I'm only saying that because he's standing there with me and he's laughing as well. So you won't find it on the rear, but you will find it along the fronts of these. They did put some plastic against the car at one point to protect it, and this car I think has PPF on it, doesn't it? So that's why it looks so good. Additionally, with the GP3, you also get a massive rear wing, but you also get no rear wiper. This rear wing, though, does do a job, despite what some people think with hatchbacks. They think hatchbacks don't need little wings because they're front-wheel drive. No, this actually is needed. I've driven mine fast enough on the road to know that it will tend to get a little loose. Now, if you open the hatch and look inside, you will find not much back here. You will find a stress bar, and it is actually bolted in on both sides. You will find no indication that there is any place to put a seat back here. You'll find the spot for the rear belts, but no rear belts. And you will find pretty much open space with a toolkit down here, reinflation pump, and fix-a-flat stuff. And I have a feeling he might not have known that was down there because he's looking over here as well. Did you know that was there? You never knew that was there? No. The entire time. Well, there you go. If anyone owns a GP3 and didn't know that that was down there, go look. It's there. Additionally, on the GP3s, you will also have darker tinted tail lights compared to the regular JCW. And a few other little things here and there that are done to reduce weight in the vehicle. It's going to be a lighter vehicle because they do change out a few things. You will also notice a very different rear bumper with no vents. And in the case of this car, this one does have a JCW Pro exhaust. I highly recommend it. The owner highly recommends it. I have it on my car as well. He, however, has his so that he can open it whenever he wants. I leave mine open all the time. You will also notice that no GP3 has a sunroof. Not that you need one. But none of them have sunroofs, and they're all finished in melting silver on the roof, or you can vinyl over this and put red. You will also have melting silver mirror caps, unique side stripes, like I said, the unique spats. The front bumper is also very interesting. Instead of the traditional, this whole section being painted, it's reversed. So the inside is painted, the outside is textured plastic, which I really like. And then you have this unique honeycomb grille as well. Along with this, both vents on the front bumper are open, and both of them have cooling units in them, cooling vents or cooling radiators in them. On the regular JCW, you're only going to find a cooling radiator on the driver's side and typically a closed up vent on the passenger side. As far as trim bits go, you're going to find chrome headlight rings typically, chrome badging, chrome belt line. But a lot of people do tend to change those out. In the case of the GP3, it came with black trim. I like the black hood scoop. I like the black badging. So those things will be in black. Now, you can always change them out and put whatever you want on these cars if you really want to. The unique thing about Minis, as always, is infinite customization. You can basically do anything you want to these cars to make them as cool as you could possibly want, as unique as you could possibly want. You can do anything with these cars. So let's turn our attentions to the anniversary edition over here. This is one of 75 in the United States and one of 740 globally. So if you're looking at JCWs, particularly a 2022 to 2024, which is what this one is, you're going to find things a little bit different compared to 2021 and older. You're going to find a very different front bumper, a much larger looking grille. You're going to find wheels are also going to be different on these cars. They're going to be using circuit spokes versus something called cup spoke. Although if you have the 17-inch wheels, they all use track spokes. They changed the front and rear bumpers. They didn't change the side skirts. So the side skirts are the same throughout the generations. They did change the scuttle plates. They gave them a little bit different look. And they also changed the engines at some point. But with this generation, the LCI2, they also went to a black headlight. Now, this headlight might look familiar to you because it's in the GP3. So that's where it came from. I've also been told, but I haven't been able to confirm it, that some of the JCW components, some of the suspension components that are on the 2022 and newer JCWs were developed for the 2021 GP3. So there might be something to that. And I have noticed that the wheel track seems a little bit wider on the newer JCWs than on the older ones. As far as interior amenities go on these cars, you're going to notice the same stuff, but updated. You're going to notice the digital dash, which on the GP3 is present, but on older JCWs was not. The redesigned steering wheel. You're going to notice some other changes, particularly the center screen is flat and there's no recesses above and below like there are in the older cars. The toggle switches remain in place, although the original position for the driving modes was a ring around the shifter and not a switch on the dash. That was changed at some point as well. You will also notice, depending on what market, you might have a switch for the head-up display down here. And if you're in Canada, you might even have a switch there for the heated windshield, because they do have heated windshields. So you might also have wireless charging in the center armrest. This car does not have it, but if I take you all over to the GP3, it came equipped with wireless charging in the center armrest. So there you go. You can put your phone in there and charge it. Now, you can't put a gigantic phone in there, but you can put something in there, and that should allow you to charge your phone. You will also notice a change in shifters. Now, the thing with that is all JCWs came with a 6-speed manual transmission, or prior to 2020, a 6-speed automatic. Now that changed. In 2020, they launched the dual clutch transmission on the Cooper S because we didn't have a manual at the time. Along with that came a new electronic shifter, not a mechanical one. And that is the shifter right there. Now, it was universal for the Cooper S, Cooper, and JCW, if they had an automatic or DCT, to have this shifter. And in this case, here it is. However, in the JCW, it is an 8-speed automatic, not a 7-speed dual clutch, not an 8-speed dual clutch, it is an automatic. Additionally, I might add that in the GP3, you do get a really cool paddle shifter thing going on here. These are 3D printed, by the way, so these are really, really cool. But you do get those really cool 3D printed paddle shifters, along with this little thing up here at the top of the steering wheel, which I was told was actually just decorative, although I've always been told people did that to find their race line when they're racing. But naturally, it could be anything. You'll also notice that the GP3 will have red seat belts. Very nice red seat belts. I'd love to have some red seat belts, but I have a green car, so it really doesn't work. If you are looking at a GP3, along with the unique number to the exterior of the vehicle, you will also have a 3D printed dash plate with that same unique number on it. Now here's the thing. I don't know if this is true or not, but I've been told that the cars were not built sequentially. What that means is 0950 could have been the first Mini to roll off the line for the GP3, or it could have been the last to roll off the line for the GP3. It might not have been the 950th. And I want to say it probably wasn't the 950th, only because it came over to the US long after several hundred had been ordered and delivered in Europe. So there is that possibility. Additionally, if you are looking for special edition minis, the GP3 and the Anniversary Edition are two of the rarest. The GP3 having only 3,000 units globally, and the Anniversary Edition actually being more rare than the GP3, having 740 units globally. Now, if you're going to the US and you're buying the car here, I believe there's only 1,000 GP3s in the US, and there's only 75 Anniversary Editions in the US. And before you say I ruined my Anniversary Edition by changing the vinyl, there is one spot where I didn't change the vinyl, and that's the doors. The original 74 is still there underneath this circle. I did not change that. Additionally, when it comes to colors, if you want racing gray metallic, you're going to have to get the GP3. If you want British racing green on your JCW, you're going to have to get an Anniversary Edition, because they did not offer the JCW in the United States in British racing green between 2015 and 2024. The only way you could get it was this car. Another unique thing with these cars is that the GP3 does actually have a bigger turbo, and it also has a mechanical front differential, whereas the JCW as a standard vehicle comes with an electronic differential and comes with a smaller turbo. However, in the case of my car, it has a bigger turbo in it now. The turbo may actually be bigger than the GP3's turbo, but don't quote me on that yet. Wait for a video coming up on the upgrades to my JCW in a future date. and look for a future review of my friend's GP3 at some point as well. So as far as pricing goes with these vehicles, for a 2021 JCW GP3, you're probably looking at about $39 to $45, depending on condition, depending on mileage. Now, I say 45, which is original MSRP, because I have seen them go for that even with 6,000 miles on them. But you're typically going to find them around 35 grand in good condition. The JCW, on the other hand, you can find a 2015 for as low as 15,000. You can find them upwards of 25,000. You're going to find mine in good condition for about 30,000. In the case of my current car with the mileage on it, you're looking at probably about 25,000. But you're going to find them in various price ranges, various conditions, various options. They didn't switch over to a package style of equipment for these vehicles until about 2019 model year. So prior to that, you could still get a la carte options for these vehicles. So you could configure them somewhat differently than the next person. Now, they did make those changes later. The one thing you will find is you can also do vinyl of any color you could possibly imagine on these cars, case in point. But you can basically make the car however you wish. Now, despite what some people say about the GP3, you can put coilovers on it, you can put a JCW Pro exhaust on it. I've seen it done. You can do lowering springs, you can do whatever you want with these cars to make them personalized. You don't have to take the limitations, especially with these two being special editions, you don't have to have the limitations of dealing with a special edition vehicle and feeling like you have to leave it exactly how it was when it rolled off the assembly line, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You can modify these however you see fit, and I've seen people do it. I know someone out there working on a 400 horsepower GP3. I know someone out there working on a 500 horsepower JCW. They're out there. They're modifiable. You can do almost anything to them, and when you watch the video I eventually will be putting up on my car, you will see that there's quite a bit that can be done to these vehicles, usually on purpose, that gives them more horsepower. Now, if you want to give it less horsepower, watch one of my earlier videos when my turbo went out, and I'll show you exactly how that's done, because it's quite easy. But until next time, this is your forever fan of the Mini brand, signing off.